Functional Neurological Disorder is known by a few different names, including FND, non-epileptic seizures, non-epileptic attack disorder, non-epileptic events, dissociative seizures, pseudo-seizures, pseudo-epileptic seizures, psychogenic seizures, conversion seizures, or conversion disorder, etc. But no matter the label, the truth is that FND is incredibly debilitating, misunderstood, and intensely frustrating for sufferers of this condition. FND Hope, an international charity set up to provide support for those affected by FND, say this about it. Functional Neurological Disorder, FND, is a problem with the functioning of the nervous system and how the brain and body send and receive signals. Physical and/or psychological risk factors can cause functional symptoms, which include a variety of physical, sensory, and cognitive systems that have yet to be explained by a recognized disease. Functional neurological disorders are considered multifactorial, which means many different risk factors could contribute to the development of the disorder. The symptoms are real and could cause impairment in quality of life that is similar to, and in some aspects worse than, other neurological conditions. Put simply, FND is a condition where the body can experience a range of symptoms without a recognized disease or condition causing them. This does not mean that the patient is making it up or that it's just in their head. The symptoms are very real and very much outside of the patient's control. Symptoms of FND most often appear suddenly and progress rapidly. People can go years without ever suffering symptoms and then suddenly be hit with issues and find the episodes increasing in intensity and frequency. Symptoms can also fade, seemingly disappearing altogether without reason, only to return out of nowhere. FND episodes could also be triggered by other illness or injury or severe stress. There are numerous presentations of FND, including, but not limited to, bladder and bowel issues, communication issues such as being unable to speak or experiencing word salad, concentration issues, deafness or hearing difficulties, difficulties walking, dissociative episodes like blanking out, dizziness, facial sensory disturbance, i.e. the feeling of one side of the face being different than the other, facial spasms, fatigue, feeling a limb doesn't belong to you or isn't a part of you, functional limb weakness, headache, health anxiety, i.e. worrying about the diagnosis itself and what it means, hemisensory syndrome, one side of the body feeling different than the other, including heaviness, irritability, issues swallowing, light sensitivity, low mood, memory loss, physical seizures similar to epileptic seizures, random pain without obvious cause, sleep issues from insomnia to constantly sleeping, slurred speech, stroke-like episodes, suddenly falling or collapsing without passing out, tinnitus, tremors, twitches and sudden jerks, vision issues, worry and panic, and so much more. There are some stigmas about FND. FND means we don't know what the problem is. It's all in their head. It's not real, they're faking it. Episodes are only triggered by stress. It can be cured with antidepressants or therapy. All of these are not true at all. When FND is diagnosed, it's not the same as a neurologist saying that they give up. This confusion happens a lot with those who are told they have non-epileptic attack disorder. There is a misunderstanding that this can be interpreted as a neurologist saying, well, we know you have seizures, but it isn't epilepsy, so we give up. Which cannot be further from the truth. FND, by any name, is not a diagnosis in absence of evidence, rather it is a positive diagnosis. There must be sufficient evidence to make the diagnosis. It is important to bear this in mind when approaching the diagnosis itself, especially when it is tempting to think of it as not real or a patient faking symptoms for attention or sympathy. FND is a communication failure between the body and the brain. Although a person may not suffer from epilepsy or a stroke, it doesn't mean they're not having a genuine seizure or episode. The symptoms are all too real. We also cannot say that the condition is purely imaginary, and it can be stopped by just focusing. The episodes have a real cause, and that cause is neurological communication failure. So, what causes FND? The truth is, we simply don't know. Until recently, FND is thought to be caused purely through psychological trauma, such as PTSD, stemming from stressful events and existing psychological conditions. Recent medical studies suggest that this is not necessarily the case, with documented cases of patients not showing any signs of stress or depression increasing. Medical research is ongoing in this field. As for the episodes themselves, however they present, it is true that stress will often provoke or trigger an episode. However, it is entirely possible for episodes to occur without the presence of a stress factor. Episodes can happen out of nowhere with seemingly no cause. Addressing another stigma, there is no cure-all option. FND has a large range of symptoms, so any treatment plan must consider the varying factors. There's no set way to approach FND, especially as there is an alarming frequency in therapists having no understanding of what FND actually is. Whilst medication and therapy can help many people, there is no medically approved medication or singular therapy type for FND. Some people find CBT or IPT therapy helpful in understanding their condition, and some antidepressants can temper the symptoms in some cases for some people, but there is no cure. From my own personal experiences, I've forgotten loved ones' names, collapsed more times than I can count, suffered physical seizures, lost all balance, felt a heaviness in my head, mainly on my right side, and become disassociated, i.e. blanking out. The lights are on but nobody's home. Now, I work in a contact centre. Imagine you're trying to speak to a customer service agent about a big problem you're having and suddenly they go dead silent for minutes at a time. How frustrating is that? Now imagine how frustrating it is for someone like me who must now explain himself to angry customers and unimpressed management. Worse than that, imagine trying to have a deep, heartfelt discussion with your future wife, and while she's pouring her heart out to you, you've gone completely blank and forgotten everything she's just said. Imagine the feeling of looking at your loved one's face, holding back tears because she knows you don't mean it, but knowing her deepest thoughts have fallen on unintentional deaf ears. I don't have to imagine it. I was diagnosed with FND, or non-epileptic attack disorder, NEAD, sometime in 2017, after realising I was experiencing blackouts, collapsing, head heaviness, and numerous other symptoms. I spoke to psychologists and neurologists and also went through various therapy sessions and testing, including sleep studies, epilepsy tests, and CT scans. After everything, I was told one late evening in a quiet hospital room by a neurologist that I had non-epileptic attack disorder, or NEAD. He explained that there was little known about it other than it was an issue with the brain and body communicating. I had mixed feelings at the time. On the one hand, I now had validation for my symptoms. There was a cause, a reason for the blackouts, the memory gaps, everything. It wasn't dementia or Alzheimer's. However, the label itself seemed lacking in some respect. It felt like an empty diagnosis. It suggested more what it wasn't than what it was. Put simply, it felt like I was saying I don't have epilepsy rather than saying I have this condition. Ultimately, I was told there was nothing I could do. No therapy, no medication. I felt helpless. In 2018, I started taking sertraline, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or SRRI. I began taking 25 milligrams as an experiment under the supervision of my GP. This happened because my fiancé had brought up my issues with a medical professional who recognised my condition as functional neurological disorder, which NEAD is considered part of. This medical professional had noticed some potential methods of dealing with this condition that I could try. My fiancé advised me of this, and so I booked an appointment with my GP. After a short time on 25 milligrams, I was showing incredible improvements. Not only were the episode frequencies and intensity dropping dramatically, but I was finding it far easier to concentrate and my anger issues were all but gone. After about a month, I moved to 50 milligrams. This, alongside a positive change in my job role, helped me feel normal. For months, I had far less episodes, and when I did have them, they tended to be less severe. I even went through a single month of no seizures whatsoever. I was the happiest I'd been in years. Unfortunately, after roughly a year and some changes to my job role, the episode frequency and intensity began to build up again. Back to a square one scenario, like before I started taking the sertraline. I went back to my doctor, who increased my dosage to 100 milligrams of sertraline. After a short time, I started feeling incredibly weak and drunk. Now, being a recovering alcoholic, I remember my days of drinking very well, and drunk is the most apt description I can use to describe my state other than potentially high. I was lethargic, weak, disoriented, and completely disconnected from reality. I couldn't walk straight. Basically, I went back to my doctor, who told me my body would eventually adapt. So I went back to work, and I collapsed. I went back to my doctor, who told me that I need to stay on 100 milligrams and that my body would just need time to adjust. I expressed my concerns, but I was conscious of the fact that I don't have AMD in this, so I followed my doctor's recommendations. After over a month of dealing with the symptoms of being off work, I went back to my doctor, who advised me to go back to 50 milligrams. I asked if I could move to 75, but I was told it was pointless. They told me my symptoms would ease, and after several weeks I went back to explain that whilst I was starting to feel less drunk, the episodes were increasing again and getting worse in intensity. Again, I asked to move to 75 milligrams. I was told it was pointless again, and was put onto a new medication, mirtazapine. I was told to take this new medication alongside the sertraline, aiming to phase out the sertraline altogether. The only reason for this change was to help me sleep. In my younger days, I had taken mirtazapine and I had an odd reaction to it, becoming violent and incredibly unstable in my mood swings, hence why I was taken off it in the first place. At this point, I felt like I was being used as a lab rat, essentially throwing medication at the wall to see what stuck. After some serious objections from myself and my family, it was determined that I should return to just taking 50 milligrams of sertraline. So, having been off work for 2 months, November to January, getting into debt with bills owed, not only was I worse off financially, emotionally and physically, but I was back to having the exact same problems I had before I moved on to 100 milligrams in the first place. I've achieved nothing, and it cost me more than I could afford. Now I must face explaining my situation to work at an absence meeting, thus adding to the stress, which will no doubt increase the chances of an episode hitting me, not to mention dealing with having to pay bills with less pay because I have to work more in order to get that pay again. It's like 2017 all over again. I feel helpless. If you're asking yourself how you can help, then you're already off to a great start. If you know someone who is suffering from FND, there are some things you can really do to help. Understand FND needs. Many FND sufferers require more rest than the average person, and can become more quickly drained by stimuli, whether it's noise or social interaction. Alone time is generally an essential for FND patients, but certainly not for all. Do not buy into the stigma. People with FND are not faking for attention, neither are they trying to get sympathy. Their bodies and minds are acting outside of their control, and if you think you're uncomfortable about their episodes, imagine how they feel suffering the episodes. Talk to them about their symptoms. Learning their symptoms and how it affects them can not only help you better understand what they go through, but can both help them feel that they're not alone and in helping them coming up with a coping plan. Discuss coping mechanisms. Discussing what helps the person makes you a positive part of the situation. Maybe you can help create a safe space for them. If they're willing, discuss medication they may be taking or therapy they're taking so you know their needs. Remind them when they're supposed to take their medication. Ask them how things are going. Keep in touch with them. Don't make a drama of it. One of the worst feelings a sufferer of FND can have is that their issues makes them a burden on everyone and that they are ruining things for everyone else. Let them know that everything is okay, and if they do experience any episodes around you, they're in a safe space and you will do all that you can to help them. I promise you, the situation will always be more stressful for those with FND than those who are witnessing it. Visit FND Hope International and FND Action. These are two charities set up to help both patients and loved ones understand and tackle the issue of FND. FND Hope International is the first and only global charity for people with functional neurological disorder. Originating as a grassroots campaign, it uncovers the hidden world of FND and empowers those affected to live their best possible life. On April 30th, 2012, FND Hope was created to unite people diagnosed with functional neurological disorder/conversion disorder. In October 2016, FND Action became the first charity to be registered in the UK to support those diagnosed with functional neurological disorder, including non-epileptic attack disorder. The charity was founded by a group of people who had been diagnosed themselves and who wanted to come together to provide help and support to others. Take part in FND Awareness Day. In the UK, March 25th is FND Awareness Day. Spread the word, show your support, and if you're able to, consider giving some financial contribution to either FND Hope or FND Action, if not both. Functional neurological disorder, by any name, is very real. It is not all in the head, neither is it just another way of saying we've no idea why you have issues. It is a very serious condition, and it is vital that we treat it with respect. People like me who suffer from this condition don't want special treatment. We just want to be normal. We're experiencing pain and symptoms that we cannot control. Many of us feel that our brains are broken. While some can live positively with these issues, there are some like myself that struggle and feel not only inferior to everyone else, but that we don't deserve to live, making the suicide risk a very high one. FND makes it incredibly hard for sufferers to work, socialise, keep to plans, or even make them in the first place. We don't want to be different. We want to be like you. We don't ask for your sympathy. We ask for your empathy and support. In putting together this editorial, I referenced the Royal Hallamshire Hospital NHS at www.sdh.nhs.uk, FND Hope International at fndhope.org, Professor John Stone, MBCHB, FRCP, PhD, Consultant Neurologist of NHS Lothian and Honorary Professor in Neurology at the University of Edinburgh, in Functional Neurological Disorder, a Patient's Guide, available at www.neurosymptoms.org. FND Action at fndaction.org.uk, and Leonard Jane at Medical News Today, available at www.medicalnewstoday.com. Links will be provided in the description. Personal anecdotes are my own. I do not claim to speak for anyone else that suffers from FND or has experience with people who have suffered FND. Everyone handles things differently and experiences things differently. I'm not a medical expert, I am just someone who suffers from this condition. For further information, please consult the websites I visited, or if you're concerned that you may have FND, please speak to your GP. And please do look into FND Hope International, FND Action, as they can also point you in the right direction. But remember, they are not the medical professionals. If you are uncertain about these things, consult your doctor. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this. I'm Steve Jones 313, and I have FND.